Hello guys, welcome back, and today we're gonna be talking about our lovely little boy in the world of Hollow Heart, aka Izu. So yeah, let us begin, ladies and gents. We currently see our boy Izu as he's currently tired, extremely tired. Not only that, he was also quite, hurt during his fight. As Izuku would start to wake up, as he would get up from whatever he was sleeping on. When Izuku got up, he would notice that he was on a bed, as Izu would say, hmm, what? Why am I on a bed? Wait, this is not Las Noches, he would say. As Izuku would get up from the bed, as he would look around, seeing that he was in some sort of log cabin. As when Izuku grabs onto the front, goes towards the door and opens it, he would see a pretty large cabin like, area or living room area with few seats, a dining room table, and a few like, simple amenities. In fact, it seems pretty old. As in old, I mean more like, like medieval old. Like there's no like, sinks or anything of the sort. As when Izuku saw this, he would think to himself, "Where am I?" he would say. As before he can look around any further, he would be approached by someone. As Izuku would look towards the direction and would see the person that he was not expecting to see, being that of the woman that he saw earlier. As he would say, "You," he would say. As Izuku would, would obviously wield up his, his Sanbakto, aka El Diablo. As he would get ready to, grab it, but it was not on him. As he would say, "What? Where's my?" As the girl would say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Please calm down, mister," she would say. "You don't really need to be so afraid. Besides, I'm was the one who saved you," she would say. As Izuku would say this, "I did not need your help," he would say. After saying that, she would say, are you sure about that? You definitely look like you were about to be destroyed," she would say. As Izu would just, be quiet about that. As when, actually I didn't meant destroyed, but more like the R word rhymes with grape. As when Izuku heard that, he would say, "Wait, what do you mean by that?" he would say. As she would say, "Oh, don't you know? Monsters, well, monsters like me, or let me just check the actual name of it, which are known as monster girls, or just monsters, or mamono. But I prefer monster girls or just monsters." After, explaining what are monsters, essentially being that of, and I quote, they, and I quote, "They are all united by an overwhelming love of that." I'm not gonna say the actual word. With supernaturally beautiful bodies and incredible abilities to give pleasure to make sure they get it. Decreed as the enemies of mankind by the order of the chief god, the theocratic, the theora, well, my dyslexic ass, the theocratic world church to which the majority of humans belong. Monster girls in human looks and questionable dating practices means they really are viewed with dread by most humans of the world. Even though, for the most part, their intentions aren't any more sinister than giving the men they capture a really, really good time. I'm not kidding, that's the actual quote from the wiki. And you wonder why I picked this series for the next for my next new series. Then, okay, continuing on. So after hearing what the monster girl, aka the Chimera, said, he would say, "Excuse me, you're telling me you Mamonos are basically monsters that after the original Demon Lord decided to up and disappear or got defeated, apparently a succubus decided to turn you all into this. Now you have subsist on human and what you call as spiritual energy, right?" As she would basically nod her head. As he would say, and not only that, not only that, this spiritual energy is apparently human. I'm not gonna say it, but it definitely, it kind of sounds like the word for a man going on sea. A seaman. I'm so writing the line on this point. If at this point I might get demonetized at this point. Anyway, continuing on, as she would nod her head, as she would say, and the reason why you saved me is because, as she would say, because you're my husband now. As after hearing that, he would start, slowly backing away. As when she saw this, her eyes would change, including that of her personality, becoming much, much more. Let me just explain. I'm. She's what you call as a chimera, which in the in the world of this, aka Monster Girl Encyclopedia, chimeras are chimeras. More specifically, they're essentially, they're, and I quote, typically, formerly a hybrid beast born from a combination of several demon beasts via sorcery. Typically, individuals are endowed with the various traits and abilities of demon beasts, like for example, lions, dragons, goats, or snakes. And this also includes the personality switching. Because of this, she has multiple personality disorder. In this case, lion, dragon, goat, and snake, which I decided to categorize as Onisan, prideful, lust, and just yandere. And you can probably guess by by the way I said, the way I sounded earlier is probably the last personality that she's currently embodying right now, aka Snake, or also known as Yandere. Oh boy, time for death. As the personality of the Snake or Yandere would come out, as she would say, "Oh, but you won't be leaving," she would say, as she would snap her fingers. Doing so, it would magically lock the door. As when Izu saw this, he would try to try and get out of there immediately, because remember how I said that he really doesn't want to deal with women? Well, in this case, he definitely doesn't want to deal with this shit. Wait for a second. As she would start slowly walking towards him, as Izuku would try to, try and find his Sanpakto, aka, El Diablo. As while he was looking around, she would say, "Oh, are you looking for your toy? Oh, sorry, but I sort of decided to put it somewhere else. You won't be having it until we finally consummate our marriage," she would say. "Now, come here," she would say. As she would start using the, I guess you could say the goat, arm. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Kind of. Actually, it's more like a. Yeah, that's actually is a lion's arm. So, as the lion's arm would basically start stretching out, Ash would start clawing at the table, causing Izuku to flinch even more, sort of reminding him of his past life. I won't be explaining it because I already have the idea in my head, and let's just say it's fucked up. So, as Izuku would, would run away, like he would start running using Sadido. Noticing this, she would say, are you perhaps, um, some sort of magician or some sort of magical swordsman? I know that is probably not a thing in this universe, but fuck it. We're going to be adding in, like, some elements to, like, some elements of, like, other, like, like typical, like, fantasy world shit, like, battle mages that, decide if I don't have enough mana, why not use melee?
I chose it first, yeah.
Or a healer that basically does damage, going like, I'm a healer, but holds a gun. Anyway, continuing on, as Izuku would, would use his Sunido to basically get out of there, as he would decide to try to use, what is that called? Oh yeah, Bala, yeah. As he would try to punch the wall, doing so, it does a minimal amount of damage. In fact, it just felt like he would just punch the wall normally if he was just a normal human being. As doing so, he would think, what? How? As after saying that, the Chimera, as she would say, oh, don't worry. I just used a bit of my magic to reinforce the wall, she would say. Now, come here, she would say, as her eyes would be hollow. When Izuku saw this, he would start freezing up, actually being afraid. I won't be explaining why it is, but it's probably going to be a future episode. Perhaps. So, as Izuku falls to the floor, he would think to himself, no, 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 I do not want this. I do not want this. As he would start, gaining, like, somewhat semblances of his, of his true personality. Being that of a poor small little child who couldn't even, wait for a second, as he would almost, start crying, as you say, no, not again, please, no, as he would start remembering his past, and I mean a full force of it, as he would start crying. He doesn't want this anymore. He doesn't want to do this anymore. As he would start crying even more, as tears would start coming to his eyes, as his, as he would almost resemble that of a kid that was about to be punished in a way. As she would just sit on Izuku's lap, as the snake, like, the snake, like, let's just say the snake, tail would start wrapping its body, around his, as it would bite on Izuku's neck. As when doing so, Izuku would start feeling this intense pain, while slowly it would start turning into something else. As Izuku would start thinking to himself, no, please, not again. As his eyes would start tearing up. As, wait for a second. As while this was happening, one of the personalities, being that of the lion, would say to herself, my, what happened to him, she would say. Why is she crying? As she would say this to herself, the somewhat deranged snake, aka, the yandere, would say, don't worry. It'll all be over
Well, the
soon.
dark magicians
And the screen would fade to black.
themselves.
So yeah, this is where we're gonna be ending off this episode for now. So yeah, bye bye.